Roleystone Meditation. I've started before our Rains Retreat to have like a series of talks, 4 talks altogether, how we focus our awareness. And we have already covered the focus of the physical aspects, which has to do with the body and what we can feel in the body. And we've also covered the feeling tone, so how things are felt. So if something is like positive or negative or in between, so it doesn't register. And today we are looking at the term in Pali, it's called chitta, and that is the word for mind or heart. In Buddhism we actually kind of use that one word that covers both. Because when we talk about the mind in the West, sometimes we have this kind of idea, it's kind of like the intellect, or it's kind of our intelligence, or it's up here in the head. And when we talk about chitta in Buddhism, it also means the heart. So it actually kind of brings those two aspects together, also the kind of emotional part. So that's what we are going to have a look at today. So what we try to be aware of and have an idea about is the quality of the mind. And it's actually something that is very, very central in Buddhism and in life as well, as you will be finding out, because that's where everything kind of comes from. That's where our intentions come from. That's where our motivations come from, why we're doing something, or also where we are aiming at. And that is very, very important. So in Buddhism we have a book, which is a little bit, like the Bible maybe. In Christianity, it's a bit different in Buddhism. But in that scripture, it brings together a lot of short sayings, which kind of bring the essence of Buddhism out. And in that book, which is called the Dhammapada, right at the start, there are 2 verses. And because they're at the start, it also means that they're very central, that they're very important. So usually when you want to bring an idea across in a talk or whatever, you usually try to bring that in the beginning as well. So I just wanted to kind of read that out so we understand how crucial, how important this thing is, which we call the mind. So it goes as follows, translated into English, because it was in an old Indian language called Pali, the original. So the mind, intention, or what we call karma or kamma in Buddhism, precedes and shapes all mental states. So mind, intention is the chief. It comes first. They are made of the mind. They are made of intentions. Now, if with an impure mind or with a corrupted intention, with corrupt intent, we speak or we act, suffering will follow us, like the wheel of the ox's foot. So these teachings come from 2,500 years ago, and I don't know if you've been to India. Nihit, who stayed with us, actually comes from India. So, I mean, of course, we did that as well in the early days, that we had animals that worked for us, or we, like on the farm, or that were pulling a cart. So you have this animal pulling the cart, and the cart, the wheel of the cart, follows very, very naturally. So now the mind is what influences our actions and our speech. And that is what, in this case, if it is corrupt, if it is impure, if it comes from an impure, unwholesome mind state, then it creates suffering. So we understand, where does suffering actually come from? What is the source? And the source, if we trace it all the way back, that is actually the mind. And that's why it's so central. Then the second one repeats, but goes to the wholesome side now. So it says, mind, intention, kamma, precedes and shapes mental states. Mind, intention, is chief, is first. They are made by the mind, made by intentions. If with a pure mind, with pure intent, we speak or act, happiness will follow. Like the shadow that never leaves. It's actually a wonderful simile as well. So if you're outside and the sun is shining, you can't get rid of your shadow, can't you? Unless you kind of go into a shady place where it disappears. But it's something that follows very, very naturally. And that's here as well. So when the mind is in the right place, when the mind comes from the right place and kind of flows out into action, flows out into speech, then happiness will follow. And so in this teaching, we are encouraged to go back to that source, to familiarize ourselves with that source, and then to make sure that the mind is in the right place. So that's the first 2 verses. And in that book, it also has a couple more verses under like a chapter which is called the mind. And there it says a little bit more. It says, hard to hold back, flighty, alighting where it will. It's good to tame the mind. A tamed mind leads to bliss. So that's probably what we're all familiar with. When we learn meditation, people usually say, my mind is everywhere, or I can't find my mind, and it's just going here and there, and what we call the monkey mind. So it acknowledges it's hard to hold it back. It is flighty. That's from 2,600 years ago. Sometimes people say, stuff from the past is not really relevant. But the mind is still the mind, isn't it? Even though things have changed around that mind, they were exposed to maybe different things, but they were experiencing it with the same mind. So here it says our job is to tame that mind. Like we tame an animal. And taming is a word which, I don't know. Sometimes when it's used, people bring up this kind of simile of like the lion in the circus, and you have to be like really kind of harsh with it. But this taming is much, much more subtle. It's basically becoming a friend of this thing called the mind, understanding it and working together with it that it goes into the right direction. So when you train a dog, or when you train whatever animal that is trainable, a horse, you hopefully are kind towards that being. You become that friend of that being, and then that being wants to actually behave because it likes you. It doesn't want to make you suffer. It doesn't want to misbehave and make life difficult for you. Because if we use force, then that will work for that little time when that animal or that being is afraid. But then if we can't exert that power anymore, then it will misbehave. So that's that kind of saying that we have in German. When the cat is out of the house, the mice dance on the table. But if you tame those mice, if you explain to those mice that, the mind is an important thing and we should take care of our minds, because if we do good things, then it will have good results, then even if the cat is out, the smart cat was like a tutor or a teacher or someone who was guiding those mice, then they don't dance on the table. Because they know that it will be good for them and they will be happy and balanced. Anyway, so there is another one which goes, so hard to see, so subtle, alighting where it will. The discerning protect the mind. A guarded mind leads to bliss. And the guarding and the protecting is usually like the positive things. Once our mind has gone in the right direction, once we have kind of trained our children, for example, as parents, then we want to guard and protect them from influences which are not so good. And we want to do the same with our own minds. Make sure that the beautiful qualities that we've cultivated, that are part of our heart now, that they don't get destroyed, that they don't get reprogrammed, or that they don't get it's like a purity that has evolved, and we don't want to make it kind of dirty. We don't want to make it smelly or whatever, like with our clothes. The next one. That's a really interesting one, because often we kind of blame the world for our unhappiness or for our happiness. But these two here are saying a wrongly directed mind, wrongly directed intention, wrongly directed awareness would do you more harm than a hater to the hated, or an enemy to their foe. So the mind, our own mind, is more powerful than the things which are outside of us and the people who are trying to influence us. If we don't allow them to mess with us, if we don't allow them, our mind states, to become negative and dark and heavy, then they can't control us. And there is some beautiful examples of very, very, difficult situations that some people got in. They were in prison for many, many years, but they didn't get bitter. They had a lot of mistreatment, a lot of things that happened to them, but they managed to have a positive mind and to have a mind which is directed to the things which are helpful and wholesome, rather than to the things that pull them down and make the situation they are in, that they couldn't change at that time, worse. So I'm not saying that if you're in a situation where you can change things in a smart way, you can talk to people, you can move stuff, please do so. But there is there is situations in our lives where that is not possible. And then we resort to our own mind and how we frame things, how we look at things. And then the opposite, of course, a rightly directed mind would do you more good than your mother or father or any other relative. So the mother and the father and the relative here stands for the positive qualities in life. And I'm not saying please don't expose yourself or whatever. They are very, very important. Please take them on board and use them. But again, the mind is a separate thing. And the mind is responsible, or when we are responsible for the mind, then that is a very, very powerful tool in our toolbox. So that's just a few verses to start you off for tonight. But when we talk about the mind, people often ask, what is the mind? What is it actually? And it is very subtle, as it was described there. So the best way is to have some similes. And one of the similes which kind of makes sense to understand what we are dealing with is when we imagine the mind and the mind states as like a garden or a piece of land that we are the guardians of, that we have access to, that we can, influence in some way. And now it depends what we do with that garden, which kind of seeds we put in, which things we cultivate, where we put our attention. So our teacher Ajahn Brahm, that you might be familiar with, often says we should water the flowers, not water the weeds. So the flowers and the weeds are the kind of similes for the wholesome mind states, for the helpful mind states, or for the harmful mind states, for the not so good mind states. And the water is our attention. So if we give things attention that we don't want to cultivate, that we don't want to grow, even if we don't want it, they will grow. They will become stronger. They will kind of control our lives. So it's also important to understand that we have a choice of taking that awareness, taking that power of attention and of feeding something away from things that we know are not helpful. But then we can put it in another area. And once we understand that, the mind is very, very similar. And then once we are in one of those kind of areas, then we can understand what the plant is that we're dealing with and what actually happens, because the plant will grow and over time it will also have fruit, and those fruit can be helpful, the fruit can be nourishing, but they can also be toxic, or they can have bad odors or whatever, or they can be a weed. And very often, I came to Australia and I didn't know a lot of the flowers here, and some of the things that we in Europe, or where I grew up, call like normal flowers are called weeds here. So what does make a thing a weed? It's the surroundings it is in and how it actually influences that area. So once it starts to spread very wildly and it has results that are not good, that is what makes that specific plant a weed in that specific environment. But if you're in another environment where there's other plants and other climate conditions, then it's not really a weed. Because I remember my mom, when she came to Australia, she wanted to give something to the monastery, and we went to a shop and she got a bit of lavender because she liked lavender, and she brought it to the monastery. But our teacher was saying, okay, number one, he didn't tell her. We actually put it in a nice pot and we left it there for a little while. But he said, do you know that this is a weed here? Because it's spreading like wildfire, number one. And the other thing is, you could have just gone to our retreat center across the road. We have a lot of lavender there, and just brought some over. You don't have to go to the shop to get it. Anyway, so once we are aware enough, then we can kind of check. Like we go into a garden and have a look around, we smell, we maybe taste the things, hopefully not the poisonous ones, but that is also, the berries and the things that are bitter, we recognize as not good, as a problem. That's our kind of normal mechanism in biology, that if something is bitter, we don't like it because usually things that are toxic are bitter. So you have to teach the kids to eat bitter things even though they are not toxic. Like some berries, they have a little bit of bitterness in it. So you have to condition them into eating something which is healthy, overwriting their biology, so to speak. And so with our minds, if we are aware enough, if we are quiet enough, and we turn our attention inwards, then we can feel if our mind is dark, or if our mind or our mind states are bright. We can feel if it's heavy, we can feel if it's light, we can feel if it drags us down, or if it's a delight. When I wrote that down, it kind of rhymed very nicely. Dark or bright, heavy or light, a drag or a delight. And that way we can understand if something is skillful or unskillful, if it's helpful or unhelpful, if it's healthy or if it's unhealthy for us. So the questions that we can ask ourselves when we want to find out what's going on with my mind, what is going on inside, what kind of mind state am I experiencing, is how does it feel inside? How does the chitta feel? And when we talk about feeling, then we already understand it's not like an intellectual thing. Because you can't feel something which is intellectual, isn't it? You can only feel something which is visceral, which is emotional. And then we ask ourselves, what is my motivation? What is my intention? And to understand those two words, sometimes we use them interchangeably, but it's not quite the same thing. So a motivation is a force that asks us to do something. So it's where we are coming from. Some kindness, some care. It could also be something on the other side of the spectrum, of course, which is unwholesome. And then the intention is what we are trying to achieve, what our goal is, where we're trying to get. So you can kind of look at it in that way. And that's something you can kind of ask yourself when you are meditating, or when you have a quiet moment, or when you have to make a decision. You can ask yourself, what is my motivation? What am I trying to achieve? Where am I coming from? And that way you know what's happening with the mind. And as it very beautifully said in those stanzas that I read out in the beginning, that is what will determine what? Suffering and happiness. So that's the way you can make a good decision. So another way that Ajahn Jr. covered last week, but I'll just go through it. There is actually 5 hindrances that make our mind states heavy, dark, and drag us down, basically. So number 1, I just wrote down a few words that make sense to me. I hope they resonate with you as well. So number 1 is greed, or wanting, or longing. So that's the negative side. But the positive side is also very important. What is the positive side? Well, it's the opposite. The opposite is giving, is generosity, is being charitable. So that way we can understand what is happening with the mind, what's going on in our heart, what resonates with us, which words feel right at that time. Number 2 is hate, or anger, or aversion, or just irritation. So these are all like different levels of a similar movement of mind. When we don't have these things present in our minds, when we don't have these kind of intentions or aims, then we have goodwill, then we have love, then we have care. And a couple of things that for me kind of apply to both, because it's wanting or not wanting, which are kind of two sides of the same coin. So if we have acceptance, if we have forgiveness, if we have gratitude, if we have contentment, then we also know that those first two are not present. Then the third one is delusion, confusion, or doubt. The opposite, confidence, clarity, trust, and discernment. So you actually know where you're going. You can distinguish, you can make a good decision because the mind is clear. And then the next two, they have to do with a mind which is either contracted, which is worn out, which is tired, which is dull, which some of us might be experiencing at this time of the day because what has happened before. So we understand, okay, I'm in this kind of mind state. What is the opposite? How can I lift my mind up to bring it into being awake, being aware, being present, being open, and having that clarity and that sharpness? And you weren't here probably when I did the last session. Every time at the end of the meditation, we actually check in with our own minds and we ask ourselves. And that's one thing where you can find out what has happened in meditation. So when your mind is sharp after a meditation, then you actually know that you have moved it in the right direction, that it has actually shifted. And the last one is when we are scattered, when we are restless, we can't find any kind of peace. When we have remorse, which comes with restlessness, because if we've done something which really bothers us, we don't have any peace of mind. And we can be distracted. So the opposite is collectedness, settledness, feeling at ease, feeling at peace, non-remorse. I just couldn't find another word. I was trying to find the opposite of remorse, and there is no single word. I mean, okay, yes, the feeling is being at peace, being at ease, having a clear conscience, feeling blameless. But non-remorse is probably clear enough, yes. And that is very, very important, because that's what we are aiming at in life and in meditation. Now, one very important thing. One of my teachers, Ayya Khema, she had this one sentence that really struck me when she said it. And maybe if that's the only thing you remember from tonight, that will be an important one. She said, "A negative mind simply cannot meditate." So if you have a fault-finding mind, if you have a mind which is unwholesome, you just can't meditate. It's impossible. It's not your fault. It's not your mistake that it doesn't work. So there is nothing wrong with you if you feel meditation is not working, so to speak. But you understand, okay, my mind state, and therefore my intention and my mind is in the wrong place. And once we understand that, then we can have the preparatory work done in the right way. Hopefully that happens a little bit with what I'm saying here, that you get a bit of inspiration, that you get a bit of information, and that once we start meditating, your mind has already shifted from when you came through this door about 20-25 minutes ago. So you have to get yourself into meditation mood. And once you're in the right mood, then meditation is easy. And then it happens naturally because the mind is in the right place. That is actually very, very important. So, if that is not the case, then I came up with this word, IMS, which means irritable mind syndrome. Probably you have experienced that before. So you're kind of grumpy, and because you have that negative mind state, then you are hypersensitive. Then you are very easily irritated. Because of that, you get frustrated and you get angry very easily. So again, that mind means you're in the wrong mind state, and because of that mind state and the mind itself, these things arise very easily. If the mind would be in a different state, then there would be clarity, then there would be energy, then there would be brightness, just because of the state of the mind. So that's how crucial and how important the mind is. Okay, I hope that helps. And how do we get there? Yeah, inspiration, motivation, doing the right things and remembering those things and uplifting the mind in that way. And then that will happen all by itself. Yes, there is a bit more, but maybe I think that is probably enough for tonight to give you a little bit of information before we do this meditation together. And hopefully it already helped you a little bit to separate from what was going out there and to now be in the right mind state. Usually when I write these kind of things to come and present, sometimes I sit at the table and I'm like, okay, I'm going to have a class. I'd like to get some ideas. And I have kind of what they call writer's block. It just doesn't work. And why doesn't it work? Because I'm not in the right mind state. So when I take the day off and I, for example, meditate in the morning and I clear my mind, I settle my mind, and then I sit in front of the computer and go like, okay, I had a few ideas, how can we all put it together? And then it just flows, then it just happens. And that's what we can learn, not just for meditation. So if you have a difficult meeting, if you have a difficult conversation, if you know there is many things happening in life, please find a way to prepare your mind. And once your mind is in the right place, then things will run much, much more smoothly for you. And that's what meditation can do. So let's meditate together. Okay. So please find a comfortable posture to do the meditation in. Yeah, we'll dim the lights. Thank you very much. And then you can allow your eyes to gently close. If you feel a little bit tired or uneasy, you can leave them slightly open so that a little bit of light comes in. But what we want to make sure here with meditation is that we don't force the mind. That we don't tell the mind, no, it's meditation time, sit straight and watch your breathing. We want to make sure that the mind is in the right state, that the mind actually feels at ease, that the mind feels treated fairly, kindly. We basically work at our attitude. That's another word we can use. And then that won't just apply to our mind and our mental world. That will automatically apply to our bodies as well. So please don't tell your bodies off. Don't tell your bodies you have to do this or you have to do that. You're not allowed to move for the next 25 minutes. That's what meditation is all about. No. Meditation is about ease. Meditation is about peace. Meditation is about enjoying this. And when we do, then the mind gets into the right place, into the right mood. And then it actually settles by itself. We don't have to hold it. We don't have to force it. We don't have to coax it. We don't have to argue with it. We were out and about recently, and because it was a bit of a longer trip, we also had to use the bathroom, and I always walk around in my robes. So one of the guys in the toilet just looked at me and said, like, "Are you meditating a lot?" And I said, "Yeah, sure, yes, I'm a Buddhist monk." So he said, "Is it hard or is it difficult?" And he put me on the spot. And I didn't have much time to think, but I said, well, it's actually the easiest thing in the world to let go. But sometimes it can be hard if we have those hindrances that make it difficult. If our mind is not in the right place, yes, then it's difficult. And I washed my hands, had a little bit more time to think, and as I was drying my hands, I turned around to him once more and said, the most important thing is to enjoy it. Then meditation will flow. Then meditation, in parentheses, will work naturally. So look at your body like you would look at a garden. And your job is to cultivate this garden, to protect this garden. To look at it in a way that you give your attention, that you give the water, the warmth, the energy to those plants that you want to grow. So maybe this time just scan your body. Let your awareness have a little look around and see if there is places that are nice, places that are good enough, places that are actually quite great, quite nice, quite good. And then allow your mind to go there and to hang out, to give attention to that part of your garden. And that will be different for every person, different in every body. Find those beautiful pockets with the most fragrant flowers, with the stunning bushes and trees, with colors that represent brightness, lightness, ease. Find the places where it's easy to delight in, to sit down and be absorbed by what you see, what you feel. Maybe it's your feet, maybe it's your hands, maybe it's your face, especially the mouth, which might be smiling a tiny little bit. Maybe you feel free and at ease in your chest. where the air is just flowing in and flowing out, peacefully, freely. Maybe you have a little corner in your belly where there's these kind of beautiful butterflies. It's kind of like bubbly energy. Or in your fingertips. On the tip of your nose, wherever, just have a look around, be playful, be inquisitive. Sometimes when I focus on my hands and they are just resting, they feel really soft. How one is kind of cupped into the other. How they're folded. Or maybe the lips. The lips are actually very sensitive, very soft, just touching each other gently. Feeling the bottom resting on the chair, on the mat, on the cushion. Feeling the air on your skin. Feeling your clothes on your skin. Whatever is pleasant, whatever is soft, whatever brings up this feeling of kindness and care. Maybe you can feel your hair on your head. Whatever it is, see the beauty. Encourage the beauty. Rest in the beauty. And allow the mind to shift into these uplifting, positive mind states. And then you can allow these feelings that you connect with in your body to spread out, to leak out into the areas around it. Like the flowers in the garden will grow and will take up more space because they're being fed. They're being protected. They're being encouraged. They're being nourished. And when the mind is in the right place, it can look at other parts of the body that were neutral, or that were maybe a little bit uncomfortable. But the kindness, the care melts away the tension, the difficulty, the heaviness. It's as if these places finally have a chance to breathe, to open up. It's like they've been carrying a heavy backpack, but now they can put it down. The tension is dropped, it's released. And it's as if those areas sigh with relief as those beautiful aspects of the mind, these beautiful flowers and vegetation, starts to infiltrate them, starts to grow into them, starts to take over and fill that space. Allow it to spread across your whole body. Radiating outwards. Through your legs, all the way down to your toes. From your hips, your belly, into your back, into your front, to the rib cage, up to the shoulders and the shoulder blades, out into the arms, all the way to the hands and the fingers. Up into the neck, and throughout your head, your face, your ears, your temples, your scalp, everywhere. And let it flow into the garden of your mind, into all the beautiful areas in that garden which is called your mind. different mind states in the different sections of that garden. And go and hang out, go and chill in the places that feel bright, that feel right. Find those pockets of ease, of peace, of joy, of gratitude, of care, of contentment. Let them be cultivated. Let them grow. And once they are strong enough, they will overpower, overshine, simply by their power, like the sun shines. It's not a force. It just happens naturally. It flows out, it expands, it radiates. And it flows into the areas that might be a bit tense, might be a bit restless, might be a bit sleepy, might be confused or sad. It sees them, but it doesn't judge. It cares. It understands. It wishes the best. And then as things settle down and become more calm and more peaceful, we can enter the sphere of our breath. It's gentle movement of the air coming in and going out. And let's learn to appreciate the breath. Delight in the breath. Be at ease with the breath. allowing it to become the center and fill our minds. As if when we are watching a sunset, we can just watch and be in the presence of this beautiful natural phenomenon of breath. And hang out here for a little while in stillness. And as we're approaching the other end of the meditation, now is a good time to check in and to ask ourselves, where was our mind? What were we aware of? What did we cultivate? What did grow and flourish? To understand how we can learn to bring our minds into the right place. Because that's where it's all created. That's where everything comes from. That determines how we see the world, how we relate to it, how we experience it, and how we feel. Take your time as you are listening to the bell to slowly make your way out of meditation. connect to your body and to your senses, to come back into this room. And now is probably the best time to get a bit of an understanding of this thing which is called the mind, and of the state that it is in, and what has caused it to be in that way, so that we can learn to cultivate it. It's the season, at least at our monastery still. The wildflowers probably are already slowly gone. But my abbot Ajahn Santuti, he really likes roses. They were actually working in the rose garden this afternoon. And this year it looks really, really nice. But it has taken quite a few years of cultivating it, of putting the plants in the right place and making sure they get enough water. It was a really hot summer last year. They get a bit of fertilizer, that the aphids are not coming, or that the birds are there to eat them, and that the parrots are kept away, who are usually eating the fresh buds. So we had a bit of parrot patrol sometimes to go out and to make sure they go and eat something else. Yeah. Okay. I hope that was good for you. And once we have a little bit of an understanding of what's going on with the mind, then we also feel the effects that things have on it. And then we are more encouraged to, keep it in a balanced state, keep it in a bright state, keep it in a clear, good state. We basically look after it the same way we look after our bodies and make sure that they're healthy. So having a healthy body and having a healthy mind, protecting it, nourishing it. So exposing ourselves to the right things, to the right people that help these mind states to become established and to become strong. And then we can actually be the force that encourages other people, that inspires other people. But we can't make someone have a certain mind state. We can't force them, but we can inspire them. We can kind of lift them up. And that's what we can do for each other. Is there any questions? Or any comments? Okay, very good. So thank you for coming along, and have a good journey back home.